what do you have in critical thinking?
Well, I'd like to talk about reinvestment rate risk, because we have a situation going on in all kinds of places where reinvesting your money is risky. And most of us don't normally think that way. I mean, most people don't think, ooh, reinvestment risk, what's that? So if you think about it this way, if you borrowed money or you lent money, let's say, to your bank, and you have it in a CD, and the CD paid you, say, 5% for 5 years. Well, at the end of 5 years, you get your money back. Well, now you put your money back in and say, I want another five-year CD, but now interest rates are at 1%. So the risk you took by locking up your money for 5 years is that when you took it out, you wouldn't be able to get that interest rate in the future.
So this is what happened to savers today.
They're
not really saving that much
That's
anymore.
right. So they saved for a number of years when they had their CDs, but as their CDs came due, they kept getting less and less money for the same amount of principal, right? So reinvestment rate risk, if it goes against you, can kill your income. And so you just think about the same way with Europe. You know, if you think about Italian debt that's at 3 or 4% or even less than that, maybe old debt, and it's coming due, and now they have to roll it over at 6, 7, 8, maybe 8% someday. So now you're talking about 8%. So their interest payments are going to be significantly larger than they used to be.
So it's not that they can't pay the interest, it's that when it comes due, they don't have the principal and they need to extend the loan and get a new interest rate at a higher amount.
Higher rate, right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're just going to roll over the debt. And so if they owe, say, $10 billion or whatever, 10 billion euros, so the 10 billion euros comes due, they're paying interest. Well, they're just going to roll that over to another $10 billion loan, right?
Right.
Well, so the person who had the $10 billion loan is going to get their money back. So what they need that person to do is not say, I'm going to take the money away from Italy and I'm going to go put it in Germany or in the United States.
Loan it back to them.
Loan it back to me. Well, I will loan it back to you, no problem, but I'm not going to loan it back to you at 3%.
No, because you're risky.
You're a little more risky now, so I'm going to loan it back to you at 7%. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That means what I paid last year in interest on this loan is half of what I'm going to be paying in the future. And in Greece's case...
Oh, much higher.
Well, it's not possible. I mean, you're just not going to do it. Some of the Greece interest rate loans are 140%. Who's going to pay that? So you're not going to pay that. Well, then you got to borrow money from somewhere else or just default on all your other debts. So... It's a serious problem to have reinvestment risk, and so when you think about these things, you kind of can put it into your own situation.
Can this happen to us?
Of course. I mean, think about the United States, right? We've got interest rates now in our 10-year treasuries at 2%.
Unheard of.
Unheard. Yeah. This doesn't occur very often. If the interest rates go from 2% to 4%, the last number we heard, and I don't have any confirmation of this, but we heard it would add $500 billion a year in interest to our budget. So we just spent,
we're talking about $1.4 trillion
which
now.
Which 1.4 trillion is our budget deficit. So we would go to 1.9 billion if interest rates just went from 2% to 4%. On top of that, we just had a huge debt ceiling debacle where they put a super committee in and they said they were going to cut 1.2 trillion. But remember, you got to finish the sentence.
Over 10 years.
Got to finish the sentence over 10 years. So that's only 120 billion a year. So we had this big super committee debt debacle. Everybody says we can't possibly do this, and that was 120 a year. Well, if interest rates go up 2%, it's going to be 3 times as bad. So when you think about what could happen, that's what's happening in Italy now. Could it happen to us? Absolutely. I don't know. Did I make that point clear? I think you did.
I think you did.
I've never tapped on the table. Yeah. So I've never done that before. So there you go. Yes, it could happen to us.
And what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is when your investment matures, you have to reinvest. At that point, your results will be different. Perhaps better, perhaps not. But regardless, it's not something you should ignore. The future will be here one day.